the joy of the gospel. You're listening to 101.7 KJDM Lindsborg Salina, 105.7 KMDG Hayes, 88.1 KRTT Great Bend, 88.1 KVDM Hayes, and 89.1 KGOH Colby. We're going to get another guest in here in just a minute, and we thank you for listening to us this morning. We started off with an amazing interview, just a wonderful young lady. She's got a great family here in Hayes, so thank you to Maggie Ballman and all the time that she gave us this morning, and that beautiful gift of music. So we're going to get back to our fall Care-a-thon after here just a couple of announcements. So I wanted to really quickly remind people of our board of directors. So we have an amazing board. First, the top the top people within our board. So we've got Lester Robin, who is our president. We've got Alvin LeCount, who's the vice president. Dan Loftus is our treasurer. Danetta Robin is our secretary. And Father Fred Gatchett is our spiritual director. Then the members of the board itself are Christian Lutz, Allison Ochoa, Corey Munch, Troy Shippers, Karen Marcel, and myself, Cody Marinser. So we want to thank the board for everything that they do. And what we do in our board meetings is we get together, we discuss the finances that we have, what bills we're going to need to pay in the next month, what bills we paid the last month, where we think that God is taking us in this ministry. If there's opportunities that come up and we're looking at, well, is God calling us to start another station? Do we need to get a new tower? Is all of our equipment up and running? Is there equipment that we need because our other equipment is just going to be getting old and we got to change it out? So we discuss all those difficult things to make sure that when you guys are listening, you're getting one, quality programming, and also hearing it in a crisp, clear manner, the best that we can. So we want to use the funds that you guys give us to keep putting the gospel message of Christ out there in the world. And I thank you so very much for being here with us this week. This is our last day of the fall Care-a-thon, Joy of the Gospel. You're listening to 101.7 KJDM Lindsborg and Salina, 105.7 KMDG Hayes, 88.1 KRTT Great Bend, 88.1 KVDM Hayes, and 89.1 KGOH Colby. Stay with us and please call in. We need to get some more of those donors. We've got $10,685 left in matching funds. We started this morning with $86,995. If they've got the thermometer on our website at dvmercy.com updated, you could go there and see that. Our total goal is $125,000. And that's what we use to do all those things that I was talking about that our board decides so that we can make sure you guys are getting the program that you want to hear. 785-621-4110 to partner with us in spreading the joy of the gospel. That number is 785-621-4110. All right. We are getting ready to bring on Annie Sandmeier talking about pursuing joy beyond happiness. Let me see here if we've got her on the phone or if she's coming in. Let's see. Annie, are you there? Okay, I don't see that we have Annie yet. So I am going to check with them out there and find out if we've got Annie coming in here. Before she does get in here, and before I get her bio done, I will read just a couple of things, couple of reminders as Annie's coming in. If you want to call to 785-621-5061, you can ask Annie a question while we are in the studio. And you can either be put directly into the studio so that everybody can hear you, or if that frightens you a little bit, that is okay. You can actually just ask the call screener, and they will send the message to me through the computer, and then I'll ask that question right here on the air. So get ready this morning to call in with your pledge. Get ready to answer a trivia question and get ready to hear another wonderful guest here, Annie Sandmeier. All right, Annie, it is wonderful to have you in the studio. How are you?
It's good to see you. I was going to say it's a little presumptive. I'm a wonderful guest, but I hope so.
Well, we've had you on before, so
it's a different topic. I think it's going to be good, but no, it's so good to be back. Thank you guys.
How could pursuing joy beyond happiness not be a good topic?
That's true. No, we've got a lot to discuss. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it too.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure you have some insight.
I have this problem with talking, so.
Great. We're just talking about that out there too. The gal at the front desk.
That I have a problem with talking.
No, we were saying that and
yes,
no, that it's just amazing how just personable, and like here you are day 5 and you've got to be exhausted, just like you've had such good. It's the coffee. Cheers, which I spilled on my way over. That was one of those not today, Satan. I know moments. I'm going. It's fine.
No, thank you so much for being here.
Cody.
I might have you. Would you be willing to read our trivia question for us?
I would love to read the trivia question.
I'm going to remind people really quickly. Okay. So it's going to be the top one here.
Okay.
I have to say this every time because one time I read the answer. So please don't read the answer.
Don't read the okay.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay.
So if you think you know the answer to this question, 785-621-4110. Also, as we're going out throughout the day and reading these questions, if we've got some Holy Family teachers or some TMP teachers or any of the other Catholic schools we have out there in our listening areas, it does not have to be Hayes because we have a huge listening area. Let your kids listen to this. Call in and let them answer the question. We actually had one the other day where one of our TMP teachers, their entire class yelled the answer together. I thought that was so cool.
That's really neat.
Yes. I mean, we've got Catholic schools all over our diocese. And to hear that we had a teacher letting their class listen, that's absolutely wonderful.
And they're going to learn a lot.
You know, your lesson plan wasn't that important today anyway. Do it on Monday. So
I like that.
All right.
Let's see. Yeah, let's see if we can get a class in calling in for this.
There we go.
When are Catholics required to go to Mass? A, Sunday and holy days of obligation. B, only on major feast days like Christmas and Easter. C, every day that you are able. Or D, all of the above.
Would you read it one more time?
Yes. When are Catholics required to go to Mass? A, on Sundays and holy days of obligation. B, only on major feast days like Christmas and Easter. C, every day that you are able. Or D, all of the above.
You're calling in to 785-621-4110 with your question or with your answer. And if you get that right, you will be entered into that drawing for a gift certificate to Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts. In case you did not hear that number, it's 785-621-4110. That's 4110. Call in, give us your answer, give us your pledge, give us both. Just like Dale Lois and Brad Stramel, they donated $500. And so that becomes $1,000 with our matching funds. Yes, love seeing that. That gets me going in the mornings or anytime during the day more than my coffee does. So thank you, Dale Lois and Brad, for that wonderful donation. Please join with them in helping us to spread the joy of the gospel. 785-621-4110. All right. Without further ado, we've got Annie Sandmeier in here. We're going to be talking about pursuing joy beyond happiness. And so I want to give a little bit of a bio here. Annie's been on before, and Annie is an author, co-founder of Catholic Travel USA, a wife and homeschooling mother of 3 very handsome boys, plus 1 in heaven. She has written 2 books on This Your Baptism Day and Miscarriage in the Saints, both of which can be found on hyanniejoy.com. That's a great one. You know, sometimes you have those ones that you're like, really? How did you come? I really like Hi Annie Joy.
Somebody took anniejoy.com. So I was like, well, hi, Annie Joy. So yeah, that's where
there you go. If you are a member of Catholic Match, you may even recognize Annie as the host of their many virtual events. Fantastic. So can we actually start with just a little bit of your bio? Sometimes I don't think we do enough of the background.
Well, so if you listened last year, I'll try to make this very brief. I actually worked here in the fall of 2013. And Divine Mercy Radio actually brought me back to the Catholic Church. I didn't necessarily denounce it or anything like that, but I was not going. My husband and I got married over at St. Fidelis because it's a pretty church and it'd make my parents happy.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's kind of to that extent. And then 4 months later, we were pregnant with our oldest son. Oh gosh. Yeah, I was about 5 or 6 months pregnant when Danetta hired me, very part-time, to be her assistant. And yeah, just absolutely changed my life. I don't want to repeat too much from last time or go on too long, but yeah, my husband actually, after our son Jackson was born, he got a job offer out in Denver. So we were here like another 6 weeks and then we were gone. Yeah. So it's always so good to be back here. So yeah, my oldest son started off at Catholic school in Denver. We ended up, doing the kindergarten COVID school. And then it went on to, okay, well, maybe we can, let's just try homeschool. Like, I don't want to pay this outrageous tuition any longer. Like, let's just give it a go. And then, yeah, here we are 3 boys later. Jackson's almost 11. Gabe just turned 8 and Owen is 3. But yeah, we homeschool. I try to, do my other stuff when we're not doing school and I'm not chauffeuring kids around. And yeah, it's just a good life. It's Fantastic. A good life. And we're very involved with our church out in Denver. And yeah.
That is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for that, because sometimes people need a refresher of like, now who is this I'm speaking?
So that's me. Yes.
So thank you so very much. And I just like to know people's backgrounds. I enjoy it. So we're talking with Annie Sandmeier. We're going to start discussing pursuing joy beyond happiness right after I congratulate Joan Dunn. Joan is such a wonderful lady. She has helped out here, take phone calls. I've known her for years. She's a beautiful soul, and she is a faithful listener. Thank you so much, Joan. We appreciate you listening, and congratulations. We will get you entered into that drawing for that $50 gift certificate to Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts. Jerome and Angela Schmeidler are the owners down there, and I want to thank them again. I can't thank them enough. One, for providing these gift certificates, and two, just for being great people. So thank you for your involvement, and please support them. All right, please call in to 785-621-4110 to join with us in spreading the gospel message, the joy of the gospel, here on these radio waves. You're listening to our fall Care-a-thon, Joy of the Gospel. All right, now speaking with Annie. So Annie, we're going to be talking about happiness and joy. How do we parse the two, and kind of figure out what's the difference? Some people just think that joy is just lots of happiness.
Yes. So no, it is not. There's a lot more to joy than that. I did make notes. Normally I go off the cuff, but I wanted to make sure I hit all these points. So I'm going to kind of read off the notes.
That's okay.
So happiness, I think, is more an emotion. So, it's good to be happy and God wants us to be happy. But, usually when we're happy, it's more favorable circumstances. We're not happy. We just broke our leg, or we're not happy that somebody just passed away, Yeah. So happiness is usually associated with fulfilling immediate desires, enjoying comforts, or achieving goals. Whereas joy is not dependent on external circumstances, but is rooted in the assurance of God's love, grace, and hope of eternal life. So with that, true joy comes from a relationship with God. Mm-hmm. And trusting his promises and aligning one's life with the gospel. So I did make a list of a few differences would be, joy comes from God and is spiritual, while happiness is often derived from external or material sources. Joy is enduring and can persist even in trials. Happiness is temporary and dependent on circumstances. Joy is focused on eternal truths and God's plan, whereas happiness is often centered on personal desires or achievements. And then I am going to totally botch this, so I'm hoping you can help me, Cody. Pope Francis in Evangelii Gaudium, the joy of the gospel. Did I get that?
I'm not a real Latin guy either, but yes, I imagine it would be Evangelii Gaudium.
Okay. Thank you.
But I could be pronouncing it wrong too. My sons would correct us if they were in here because they've had some Latin and they'd be like, Dad, no.
No, call in. Maybe they're listening in class right now. Let us know. But the joy of the gospel emphasizes joy as a hallmark of the Christian life, urging Christians to find their joy in spreading the gospel and serving others, which brings a deeper fulfillment than pursuing worldly happiness.
Wow. So if people have been listening, obviously our theme is joy. That's what we're talking about. But go back and listen to them and then replay this one also when we're done, because that understanding of joy, I'm so glad you're here talking about this some more. It is huge for us to try and understand. If we can separate that out and be like, okay, ice cream may make me happy. And I'm actually not even that big of an ice cream guy. But there are a lot of people that are, and so they're like, oh yeah, I would love an ice cream right now. It's delicious. Mine actually would be, do you like scooters? Or any type of coffee?
I don't think I have had scooters.
Okay.
Isn't that weird? We do have them in Denver, but I saw the line around the block driving here this morning. Yes.
And not just to plug a certain coffee shop or anything, but I do love they have this peanut butter crunch blender, and it's just like peanut butter and coffee. But it's an iced type thing, it's blended, and so it's delicious. So anyway, as you can see as I'm talking, that provides me some momentary happiness.
Yes.
But that's not joy.
It's not joy, and it's so short term. And I think people are, in this day and age especially, they're looking for joy, but they're looking in all the wrong places. And I think some of that too comes with the lack of religion and people going to church in this day and age. And so they're looking everywhere else. And we see it, people are just changing their bodies, just themselves, trying, just as an example, but trying to be happy and find that.
Yeah.
And it just, you're not going to find it without God, without having that relationship with God.
Yeah, let's hold that thought. We're going to get right back to it. First, I want to thank Greg and Lisa Flax. They donated $100. Thank you so very much, Greg and Lisa, for listening and for donating, because that becomes $200 with our matching funds. Greg and Lisa are family members on my wife's side. So thank you so very much. Lots of Flaxes out there. Thank you for listening, Flaxes, and putting up with me. I appreciate it. So if you are like Greg and Lisa and you want to join with us in spreading the joy of the gospel, please call 785-621-4110. We do still have those matching funds. We have plenty of them, folks. So help us to use them up. And even if we didn't have any, that would be a good thing. That would mean that we used everybody's funds that wanted us to spread the gospel message even more through their donations. 785-621-4110. We're talking with Annie Sandmeier about pursuing joy beyond happiness. So we talked about the separation between those two. I would once again recommend people go back and listen to Father Nick's talk from yesterday, because Father Nick was discussing with us what true beauty is. But then that also means that you have to understand the things that make something its whole.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's kind of what you're talking about too, is that without understanding what our person is, if we don't get that we were created for and by God, then joy, we're going to miss it.
We're going to miss it. And so, I did, going back to that a little bit more, I feel like, I don't know, you could probably speak to this too, Cody, but if you look at our grandparents and, their brothers and sisters, didn't they seem happier and just more content with what they had than like we do in this day and age? And, I think a lot of that just comes from God and going to church and raising your family in the church. And, they were brought up in the church and they have this relationship with God. So you probably know this too, Cody, but it's kind of crazy right now. I wrote down some statistics here too, but 70% of Americans reported belonging to a church or synagogue in 1999. And in 2020, it was down to 47%. Whereas people who reported no or religious affiliation from 2000 to 2002, it was 9%. In 2021 to 2023, it was 21%. And have you ever seen more uncontent people?
Yeah.
You know, when you look around now, and I think social media really exemplifies that too, you know, because we can just air our grievances. You know, it's Festivus every day on on Facebook and Twitter. But you know, I think that's what we're missing. And people just need to, you know, go sit in front of the Blessed Sacrament. Go to oh my gosh, I need more coffee.
To adoration.
Adoration. I was gonna say Advent. I'm so sorry. Go to adoration, you know, and you don't need to. Half the time I go to adoration, I don't know what I'm gonna say, but I'm just like, God, I'm here. You know what's on my heart. And you know, I've never left adoration feeling bad. And there's times I've just broken down in tears, even. You know, we need that. And that's where you find joy. You find joy in Jesus. You're not finding it. I mean, you find that temporary happiness in that peanut butter coffee, which does sound delicious. I might go check out Scooters if the line's down on my way back. But no, we really need God to fully understand joy.
Absolutely. And we had, I think it was when I was talking with Bill Mayer here the other day and had him on, and he has mentioned this to people. And if it wasn't Bill, I'm sorry. I sometimes attribute things to the wrong people. But he's talked before about the book called The Anxious Generation.
Yes. Yes.
And the funny thing is, we don't even need a book. All of us know it. We look around, and just like you said, we are not better off, at least when it comes like emotionally.
No.
We're not better off than our parents and our grandparents, and we have all these so-called comforts.
Yes.
And so I'm glad that you talked about adoration again, like especially if it makes you get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Go there and be uncomfortable.
Exactly.
For a little bit.
Yes. And I mean, he wants you there, and I don't want to say he's going to make you comfortable, but he's going to like work with you when you come in. So, you know, if you're on the fence and something's bothering you, go to God. That's where you're going to find that joy. That's where
find that peace.
That peace. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. I want to break in really quickly to thank an anonymous donor who gave us $100. So that's awesome. We had Greg and Lisa giving us $100. We've got anonymous donor giving us $100. Dale, Lois, and Brad Stramel gave us $500. And so all of those are adding up with those matching funds to help us get to our total goal by the end of today of $125,000. You heard me right, folks. We have a total goal of $125,000, but also we have wonderful donors. Everybody out there in our listening area, it is such a blessing to be here behind the microphone, to see these donations coming in. And it just warms my heart to see that you guys want to join with us in helping to spread the joy of the gospel. 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. We are talking with Annie Sandmeier about pursuing joy beyond happiness. So Annie, you know, we've talked a little bit already about just kind of some of those uncomfortable things. I mean, I think this will kind of lead into this topic of, you know, how joy can coexist with suffering. I have a friend, and I won't mention their name. They're wonderful people. And they had a child who passed away early in life. And going to a child's funeral was pretty horrible. And I said, I'm sorry, man. I don't know what to say. You know,
no.
It's like, and I was like, I don't know how it makes sense. And I really don't have anything to say. And I remember him looking at me and saying, this is the only place that it does make sense.
Right,
it's like that breaks me a little bit, because I was like, here is a person like, you know,
yes.
I'm probably struggling with just like, Lord, why did I have a flat tire this morning? They're like, oh, that's such and you know, here I've got a friend who has a child who passed away, and is saying the only place that this makes sense is in the context of this church right now.
Yes.
Having this final mass said for them, you know, like,
and I think we as Catholics, we just have this special understanding of it that I don't think anyone else gets, because we recognize redemptive suffering, you know, and it's like we carry our cross with Jesus. You know, we look at it that way, whereas I don't think the rest of the world doesn't see it that way.
Yeah.
And, I think too, like your friend was saying, this is where it makes sense because you do have that final mass. And, when you have a young child, too, you can just, where that child is now. And there's just so much comfort in that also, just knowing. And,
So, I know.
Ah.
It is tough, but it is. So
It's-
as we're speaking about that, maybe you can help us a little bit more with your own thoughts and experiences between the tie between joy and suffering. Because also, as you mentioned, as we're thinking about, well, it doesn't just end here. We see that joy and hope are so intimately tied with one another.
Yes.
So what have your own experiences been on this?
Well, and so mine isn't quite, what your friend, the examples I were going to give, were that I am going to give, would be, like my grandparents passing away. And just my grandma, my dad's mom, really suffered in her final days. But just seeing her, when we were going to her rosary and just the peace that was, and so it's very sad, but you can just see like she's not in pain anymore. And if ever there was somebody that was going to have minimal time in purgatory, it was my grandma Mitz. She was just that kind of person too. And so, you find joy during those times because you see that person is at peace. And another example would be, I'm going back to death again, but my great aunt Millie, when she passed away, she was 97 and she was in kidney failure. And she was really suffering in those final days too. And once again, just like one of the best Catholics and people you'd ever know. And like at the age of 90, she was still running the committee for getting meals together at church for funerals. Like she was just very, very active.
They were so much tougher than us.
Oh my gosh, we are wusses.
Yes,
I know
I
it.
know.
It is ridiculous. And so, but in those final days, my mom was sitting with her and, she was asleep most of the time, but she just out of nowhere and her eyes were closed, but she just reached up like she saw somebody and was reaching for them. And so my mom was even like, Millie, who do you see? And so she didn't say anything back, but it was just like, oh my gosh. You think, and I don't know if you've heard it before, but you see Jesus, like have you heard that before when you're getting close to passing? And I've heard other people say that too in those final moments where they just reach out just out of nowhere.
Probably people that are holier than I am.
Yes, I don't know.
I hope to reach it to that point.
Yes, you're getting there, Cody.
But,
you're doing good.
trying.
But you can find joy in those moments.
Yeah.
And even with my own miscarriage, which has been 5 years now, but just the way I was able, well, first of all, like I knew in my heart where our Michael went. And it was like, there's this Mother Angelica prayer, which I read on the air last time, but just talks about how, this baby was designed to be a saint and to, build God's
kingdom.
Sorry. I cannot think of words this morning, but, build God's kingdom and just the closeness it brought me closer to God. It brought me closer to certain saints. It was such a hard time, but I also look back and it was just a very joyful time too. And, we had a mass for him. In Colorado. There is a cemetery, a Catholic cemetery that does once a month services, which is just a really amazing thing that they do for families that have lost babies. But, I think you have to look too, to find the joy in things. But I think it only comes from having that faith in God.
Yeah.
You're not going to find that otherwise. Because, you look at, if you don't believe in God after you die, like you're done.
Yeah.
So what? And I remember listening to a podcast. It was after I'd had 2 days after I'd had my miscarriage. And I was trying to make sense of things. And I didn't sleep that night. We're getting ready to go to mass. But I was listening to this podcast and she was just saying, clump of cells, we'll try again. And she had a miscarriage at, 22 weeks or something like that.
Goodness.
And it was still just so scientific and sterile. And I was that's just we're gonna try again, which I guess is a good attitude to have, like, if
At
it's
least the
God's
trying
will,
again
like the
part,
trying
but
again. But it was just like, well, that's
just the
that.
discarding of
That was just kind of that. And I was like, no,
yeah,
that was
exactly.
a soul. Like, your baby has a soul, and
Yeah.
God is good even in those hard times.
Yeah.
There's joy to be found.
I think you said it perfectly, because I'm thinking about, a lot of times you'll see atheists say, well, you believe in a God that allows all of this
That's a
suffering.
very good, yes.
And there's lots of answers to that.
Yes.
I mean, I think there's very good answers to that. But the other side of that is, if there is no God, then atheism has no answer to suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Why do we suffer?
There absolutely is no point to suffering.
Yes.
That's a really dark place. I mean, if people understand what I'm saying, like you said, that's very dark, because when somebody suffers and dies, if there is no God, what the heck was the point of that?
What was the point?
Atheists would be like, I was talking with, I think it was Michael was talking to me yesterday, and he was talking about this atheist that was basically saying that, like, no, I think you only get one shot, and that's why you make the most of it. And I'm like, well, yeah, you do only get one shot, and you do want to make the most of it, but it's not then just that's it. And Michael was making the point, like, well, then what do you say about like a 3-year-old child who had cancer, and how could they make the best of that? And like Christianity has a response to that this life is not the end.
Mm-mm.
But if you're an atheist, then that's just it.
That's it.
Like you were saying, well, discard the cells, and
yeah,
my goodness, that's hard to say. I'm just like, oh my goodness.
That far along,
that's
but
so sad.
It's just so sad, and just what a way to be. And they're probably trying to find that happiness by having a child, because you have kids. Like, there is no greater joy than your children.
Absolutely.
And so they probably are looking for that too. But I don't know. It's just, there's some different kinds of thinking out there, and it's sad. It's sad.
I'm going to break in really quickly. We're going to get actually to our second trivia question. So Annie, if you would read that for us in just a second. First, I want to remind people of the number to call. That number is 785-621-4110, 785-621-4110. We're going to give you that question. If you get it right, so you can't just call in, you have to call in and get it right. We will enter you into a drawing for a $50 gift certificate to Messenger Traditional Catholic Books in Hayes. And we'll draw that today at about the 6 o'clock hour. So get your phones ready, 785-621-4110. And here is your question.
Who was Adam and Eve's third son? A, Cain, B, Abel, or C, Seth? So who was Adam and Eve's third son? A, Cain, B, Abel, or C, Seth?
Call in to 785-621-4110 with your guess, with your pledge, or both. You're listening to Divine Mercy Radio's Fall Care-a-thon, Joy of the Gospel. We're talking with Annie Sandmeier about pursuing joy beyond happiness. We've been discussing the difference between joy and happiness, how joy can coexist even in suffering. And so then I think we can pick up from there, Annie, and say, how do we find joy in those moments where maybe we don't feel happy?
Once again, I know I sound like a broken record here, but we find it in God.
Yeah.
There's just no, reading it. Pick up your Bible, go sit in adoration, go talk to a priest. Just you find it in God. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. I'm looking over my notes here.
That's okay.
And then I put, and joy is one of the fruits of the Holy Spirit, as per Galatians 5:22-23. And so what that says is, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So it flows from our connection with God rather than the ups and downs of life. And it's rooted in the assurance of God's love and his plan for our salvation. So even when we do suffer, Cody, we can remain joyful because we trust in the ultimate victory of Christ and the promise of eternal life. So, we'd already talked about redemptive suffering and carrying your cross. And I just think we just have such a unique outlook. And I love that about Catholics.
Yeah.
Is because, we probably look crazy to others, but it's like,
so did Jesus.
So did Jesus. Yeah, he did. But it's just, it's a good way it's a good outlook to have, I guess, on it.
Absolutely. When you were reading that, something that I keyed on was self-control.
Yes. And in this day and age, we're not supposed to have self-control.
Yeah.
Because
Indulge in
just
anything.
doing and indulge in anything. And I can't remember who was it, because we were listening, driving into Hayes yesterday, and it was a priest. Was it Father Gale you had on when you made a comment about, I was just going to sit and just have some dead air when he said, can you hear me? Was that Father? And
Yes.
he's like, well, just because you wanted to, that's a good, you shouldn't do it. And that's like a good way to be, but it is just because, that's your first one. That would have been a very minor one if you did it. It would have been funny, but, it's good to have self-control, and God wants us to have self-control. And I think that's going to bring us closer to him in the long run when we do.
Yeah. And that reason is because just pay attention to your own life. And like you said, I might be sounding like a broken record too, but I need to hear this all the time too.
Yes.
Sometimes we know our own faults, but we don't do anything until we hear it again and again.
Yes.
And so this is one of those, you understand in your own life that when you're like, I don't even really want a soda, but for some reason I want to pick it up and drink it anyway. And then you do, and you're like, it's actually kind of gross, but I'm actually going to finish. And you're just like, what am I doing?
Why am I doing
and that's
this?
A very simple
and that's
type
a
of
really
example.
Good example though, because, it starts with the soda and then you go from there. It's like, well, maybe gluttony isn't that bad. I'm going to try it.
Oh, there's some peanutty M&Ms.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Like, I'm just going to keep going. So I feel like it does kind of start with the littler things and then builds up, in terms of lack of self-control. We start with little and keep building. So,
and what I've noticed too is even in things like that, especially if I have too much sugar, I actually feel physically ill.
Yes.
It actually makes me feel like bleh. And I think everybody out there knows that. Anybody who has ever overindulged in sweets knows that feeling of like, I just feel kind of gross now. And that is that feeling that I want everybody to kind of key on, is because that is an understanding of our nature of our bodies being like, too much of this is not good for us.
Yes. And I think that's such a good, like you said, it's simple, but that is a perfect example, Cody.
Yeah.
And, I think sometimes too, with the self-control and lack thereof, we don't feel it necessarily right off the bat. And then you keep going. And then eventually you are going to feel it, no matter what it is, it's going to, so no, that's good to have. And one more thing I think with being joyful, even when we're not happy, is having a good sense of humor, which I feel like, we've kind of talked about that a little bit too. We haven't said that directly, but I don't know. I think if you look hard enough, you can always find the humor in things, like even during really sad times, like, you have to kind of look around for it, or ironic things, not funny, all the time, but.
No, I actually, while you're saying that, I think it really makes sense, because at a funeral, nobody is there like, oh, this is such a great thing.
Yeah.
Like, nobody is sitting there saying that. But what happens? You sit around and you start rehashing memories.
I was thinking that same thing. Yes.
You tell things like, oh, you remember when mom did this, you just kind of shake your head. And my kids are going to have lots of those. Like, I pray that I'm around for a while, but they're going to have lots of like, you remember when dad did this? What was he thinking? And
I'm trying to remember. Did you last time we talked, it was Mother Cabrini. And was it something with the water? I don't know. That just reminded me.
Oh,
yes.
My goodness,
why do I remember? I'm going to bring that up. I'm going to be like, hey, kids, remember when your dad did that? I remember we talked on the radio one time and you told me that.
Yes, when I filled up my giant jug with the Mother Cabrini water, and then there's this sign. I'm just the most unobservant person.
Well, I do it too, but just
and then
there's enough water. Just
my kids had to poke me and like, Dad, you're not supposed to. Oh. Well, and then you can't dump it out, so I'm like, well, so I drank it.
Well, good. See, that's what it's there for.
So yes. Anyway, we'll get back on topic here in just a second. No, that was my fault.
No, that was not.
I want to cut in and congratulate Cindy Staub. She's our trivia winner. The trivia question was, let's see here, who was Adam and Eve's third son? And that is Seth. Seth was the correct answer there. So thank you, Cindy, for listening. And thank you also for donating $100. That becomes $200 with with those matching funds that we have. We still have plenty of matching funds. Let's use them up as quickly as possible. Let's see if we can get all of our matching funds used up before the afternoon, before our break comes this afternoon. 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. You know, I've been a person listening a lot of times, whether it's to Catholic Answers or something like that, and they have their drives going on. And usually I get a little bit, and I try to change the dial, or I'll just turn off the radio once they start talking about money. You know, because I think we all do that. But these radio waves, I want to remind everybody, please don't turn us off right now. Don't turn the station. We are 100% listener funded. And so I throw that out there because a lot of times we will say the other guy will do it. I want you, if you're listening, to really pray about it and to please, if you can, donate to the cause of this station, which is the cause of the church, which is to save souls. Please help us to continue doing that with the joy of the gospel. Call in now, 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. We're having a great discussion, Annie and myself here, talking about pursuing joy beyond happiness. So we've spoken some about this already, you know, about seeking joy instead of seeking happiness like the world does. And I saw, have you ever seen the Search series on Formed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's a great series because Chris Stefanik is in it. He was
so
actually
good.
in Colby not too long ago.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard that talk. It's been several years, but
Yeah.
phenomenal if you get a chance to go listen to him. It's so good.
He's one of those speakers that you can hear the same talk a couple times and it's still like, that was fantastic.
That was so good. And what was it? He has a book that's something joy, and I have it.
Oh, I haven't read it.
I'm going to look it up in a second, but it's something about joy. It's in the title. So that would be a good one too. And, you know, hearing it from Chris Stefanik, especially. Like, yeah, the guy knows what he's talking about. But
yeah. And I bring that up because he covers this in that.
Yes.
You know, are you seeking for the momentary pleasure, or do you want to seek for true joy? So watch the Search series.
Yes.
So that's something that I would throw out there. But also I want to, you know, both of us are blessed with children. And you brought it up earlier. And I love talking about children because they are, as you said, they are just the most wonderful thing. So they have this natural joyfulness to them a lot of times. What do you think adults can do to learn from their trust and faith and apply it to our own lives?
So, you know, when you think of a newborn baby, especially, and just you know, you're their world, you know, the parents are, and just the look in their eyes, like there's nothing but just trust there. And so, you know, they show an unwavering trust in adults close to them, and we need to be doing the same with God. So we can surrender control and rely on God's plan with confidence and peace. Children marvel. Sorry, I'm going off my list again that I wrote. I was up very late the other night writing these too. So sorry, I probably could have memorized them a little bit better too. But children marvel at the world around them, reminding adults to seek God's beauty and handiwork in creation, relationships, and everyday experiences. And I have little things are big things with kids, and we should be doing the same and looking for the same. Children accept truths with an open heart without overthinking or skepticism. Adults can learn to approach God with similar simplicity, trusting his word and promises. And then finally, I have children are eager to learn, and we can/should foster the same openness to God's teaching and the wisdom of the church. So, I mean, that was kind of a generic list I think about, but, you know, or that I just read. You know, I think anyone that has children in their lives can attest to, you know, whether it's your kids or grandkids or niece and nephew, friends' kids, just how much joy they bring you. And they don't even, you know, it's not intentional, but just their being.
Yeah.
How much joy there is. So I think I don't know. I don't know if like saying striving to be innocent like a child is the thing, but
Absolutely.
maybe that is the thing. We need to be striving to be more of that mindset in terms of God.
Yeah. Really quickly, I want to say this is so good to see. It's not a donor, but it is that people are listening. Thank you for listening,
Thank you for
because a
listening.
caller called it in and said the book is Living Joy by
Thank
Chris
you.
Stefanik.
I was thinking
So
finding joy. Thank you so much.
yeah, so
Yeah, and I'm
they're
just gonna
listening.
try to Google it.
And
Thank you.
thanks for calling in. We
Yes.
do have that call in line. You can call the pledge line. They'll probably take a question there. We also do have the on air question line, 785-621-5061. That's 621-5061, that you can ask those questions. I love it when people do that. That's just one of my favorite things. But Annie, I want to get back to talking about this this joy that children have, how we can apply it, and maybe you and I can go through a few of these. So one of them is you said surrender control.
Yes.
Maybe we should give some examples or something that you've seen in your own life, your own children, or anything like that.
Surrendering control.
How do we do that?
I mean, can you think of an example? I'm trying to think like off the top of my head, like
Okay.
so
I'm thinking of very simple things like my kids, my little 4-year-old Augustine. I love him to pieces.
Augustine.
Yes.
Do you call him Gus?
Yeah, we do
I love that.
sometimes.
Okay.
Yes.
I love that.
But he struggles right now with zipping up his coat.
Okay.
And it's very frustrating.
Yes.
For me and for him, because I'm a fixer.
Yes.
Yes. And but there are some times when he's doing it, and he's like, I can't do this. And he like, can you zip up my coat? Sometimes he uses it because he just doesn't want to do it.
Yeah. Yes.
But there's those moments when you see kids when they're like, okay, I can't do this. I need your help, Mom, Dad. And that's
good.
I think what is beautiful is just to be able to be like, you know what?
Humble yourself.
Stop. Like,
yes.
Your zipper, the coat is stuck in your zipper. Like, I'm actually gonna have to take a pair of pliers and pry this thing apart to get it back to where it needs to be.
Yes.
And it's like we just keep trying to zip up the zipper and more of the coat just keeps getting stuck in it.
Do you think that's God when he looks at us? He's
absolutely.
like, I'm getting the pliers out again. Like, look what you're doing. Yeah. And I think that's such a good example of it. But yeah, just, ask for help when you need it. And, you can also be paying attention to what you're doing. Like you just said with the zipper, like we need to be paying more attention to what we're doing. And, back to the self-control, topic from earlier too, but I guess that's what I'm getting at with the, watch what you're doing. Like we can be, practicing that more, but just, I think surrender is huge.
Yeah.
Surrendering and saying, I need help and asking for help, like Augustine does with his code. I do like that. That's a good analogy too.
So what about accepting truths like a child does? What could we say about that?
Like with my oldest son, he is just so moral and he just does not he questions things, but he doesn't question anything with the church, which is interesting. We have the restored order out in Denver. So he received his first communion, his reconciliation, and his confirmation basically all in the same week. Like it happened very quick. And he's just very black and white with it. And I think, there'll be that will come eventually. He will probably start questioning and whatnot, but it's kind of neat where he keeps us on track a lot of the time.
Okay.
And so, religion is not, and your relationship with God is not necessarily black and white.
Sure.
But, I think about that with him. And just seeing him, and he just inspires me to be a better person because he's like, no, we need to do this. We need to be going to confession. We need to be,
that is great.
So, that'd be something I could think about, or an example I could give.
Absolutely.
With the childlike. Yeah.
So you probably remember this. I think you're probably younger than me, but still, we kind of, we're still in this period of the new dictate, if that's the right word or whatever, of society is question everything.
Yes.
And there is a healthy version of that. Like you should not want to follow something that is not a truth. But what society means is only you can be the absolute arbiter of your own truth.
Yes. And that's huge right now.
Yeah.
I know it. And, you hear people say, well, that's my truth.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, but that's not the
That's
truth.
not
Not the
exactly.
truth. But I know that is kind of a big catchphrase right now.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you can't question me on that. Like, this is my lived experience. This is my truth. And it's like, well.
And so I think your son gets it in the manner that you should test truth to make sure that the source is pure.
Yes.
But once we have understood that Christ and the church are one, so that any dogmatic teaching that comes from the church, we don't have to be like, but really, do we? I mean, because that is coming from the mouth of Christ and his church.
Yes.
And so, yeah, just like your son's like, you know what? Like, even if I don't completely get it, Mom said it's good for me, and actually, this mom is infallible.
Yes, that's right.
It's not like you and I who are fallible human beings.
Yes,
we have we have an infallible mother in Christ's church that is able to guide us to her son.
Yes.
Why would we be those children that are
yes, like my second son, who's just constantly, Gabe, just sit up, please.
So I think that would go a long way for me in understanding how to accept truth for like a child. We're not saying just accept everything everybody says.
No.
But once you find that pure source, you don't have to keep questioning it and like beating a dead horse. Like, well, maybe it was right on that, but how about that?
Yes.
So, I think that was a good one for me to understand. What about then, like trusting in the small things? I think we have that. You were talking about.
Yeah, the little things are big things with kids.
Yeah.
See, you're putting me on. See,
okay,
I should have made fun. No, you're fine.
I'll throw one out there.
I should have made. See, I'm relying too heavily on my notes.
That's
I should have just been like,
So here's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Is my oldest daughter. I mean, every one of our kids have such a beautiful soul in a different way.
Yes.
My oldest daughter, she's very contemplative. She's also very quiet. She's like our ninja.
Okay.
You can be standing there and all of a sudden you'll be like, where did you come from? Yeah. She's so good at that. She's so sneaky. But she can go out into the yard and she'll just sit and look at blades of grass, look at flowers. I mean, the girl is just she just takes things in, and so I think for her, it doesn't have to be big, grandiose things. It doesn't have to be the movie that's pew, 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 shooting images into, like she can just go and enjoy nature and just sit there. And I'm talking for hours.
See, and isn't that neat? And I don't think we're just so busy,
yeah,
and so we don't look for those we don't look for those little things like that. So no, I think now that you say that too, I'm like, because that's my middle son, things like that too. But, we do need to just slow down and see the little things, because God is in everything, especially in nature. It's like, this is amazing. Yeah. I went to a homeschool conference a couple years ago, and we broke out, had like these breakout sessions, but one of them was something with nature. And this mom picked up this, dead dandelion, where you can blow on it and make a wish, those. And, she was like, it's really amazing when you look at this and just how you can see God's hand in everything. She's like, these are just little seeds that, once they blow away, they're going to spread. And, it's dandelions, which isn't the greatest, but, it's just like, you can just see his hand in everything. And just how cool is that? Just God's design with everything.
Yeah.
We don't think about it. So, I mean, that is just slow down and, seeing the little things like that. That's a very good example.
So as you were saying that reminds me, the old saying really does, it really does hold true. Stop and smell the roses.
Yes.
So people use that as just kind of like a saying, but no, there really is something to that.
There's something to that.
We're so busy with so sorry, this is how I go about things.
Please.
But we're so busy in our lives and so distracted. Maybe that's a better word. We're just so distracted. You've heard of those people that have been hit because, they're walking, staring at their phones, and they just walk right out into the street. When we're like that, we're never even going to notice the flower to be able to stop.
No. And that's just kind of how this new, what is it, the Gen Z? I mean,
I don't
how
even
they're
know
kind
what
of growing
generation
up.
we're on.
See, I think my kids are all Generation Alpha. I think that was 2012
Okay.
on. I don't remember, but Gen Z and Generation Alpha, I know they're missing all of this.
Yeah.
But I'm sure
we're falling into the same
we're
traps.
doing the same things though. But it's just, I know we're not stopping to smell the roses, and we're not seeing God's hand in everything. And so we're missing out on that joy because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to give you a little shout out here. So Danetta posted on social media, love you, Dandy Annie.
Oh, I love you, Danetta.
And she said she earned that title when she used to work here because she always came up with great ideas.
Oh, thank
so
you. I miss
thank you for your
Danetta.
time
Yeah,
here. And
thank
absolutely.
you. We had a lot of fun. It was so
Yes.
short, but it was such a good time in my life.
That is wonderful. If you're listening to Annie and myself right now, please partner with Danetta, with myself, with Annie, with all the people who have donated, and join with us in continuing to spread the good message of Christ and his gospel here on our fall Care-a-thon, Joy of the Gospel. The way that you can do that is you can call into 785-621-4110, or you can donate at dvmercy.com. And then when you donate, we have those matching funds that automatically doubles your donation. So 100 becomes 200, 2, 4, 5 becomes 1,000. I always do easy math, so I don't mess it up. But if somebody out there wants to give like 2,457 and 32 cents, whatever you want, or even if you just want to give $24.72 or something, make me do some crazy math. I'll try to do it for you so that you can at least have a good laugh. Call in to 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. All right, Annie, we've got, let's see if we can squeeze in the last 7 minutes.
Okay.
Anything that you want to discuss on this topic of pursuing joy?
I'm going to kind of circle back to what we were talking about at the beginning, because, Danetta was just brought that up to my working here. But, I went to school here in Hayes, and I started off at CSU, Colorado State. I'm from Colorado, so that was another part with moving back. Like,
Okay.
I was going home, so that was okay. But, I did the normal, quote unquote, normal. Who was the Maggie? Was that who was in here before
Maggie?
me? I was like, gosh, yeah. I wish, because, she's leading the music and the music ministry. Yeah. I was like, gosh, I wish I would have followed that path, but I really fell away from the church. And, I'd still go to mass, like when I went home and everything. And I still believed in God and everything like that. But, it's a very empty feeling too. And I didn't realize it. I was filling my time with school. I was very involved at school with the, KFHS Broadcast Council. And, I was doing a lot of that stuff. And, there was some happiness that came with that. But it was just, looking back, that was just kind of an empty time in my life. And I didn't know why that was. We'd party on weekends. And, I found temporary happiness in that, I guess. But just the joy of being back and raising my kids in this faith. And I teach my middle son's faith formation class. It's his year 1. So next year he will be confirmed. And at the end of this year, he'll have his first reconciliation. But the next year it'll be first communion and confirmation. But just the joy that comes with that. And I'm learning things as we go in that class too. But just, the discussions we have, the discussions I have with my oldest son, and just going to church with my family. My husband isn't Catholic, but we go to mass every week, and, he'll lead us in prayer at dinner time and everything. And it's just a different life.
Yeah.
It's a very different life, and it's a much better life. And so I just experienced so much more joy since coming back to the church. And I mentioned this last year when I was on, but I consecrated myself to Mary.
Uh-huh.
And so, every day I'm pretty good about it, but totus tuus Mary, and just the things I see through that,
Mm-hmm.
and following her lead.
Can I
And
ask you really quickly,
yeah,
was that the St. Louis de Montfort one
it
or
was not.
the
It was Father
Father
Gately.
Gately?
It
Okay.
was Father
Mhm.
Gately. And so we did that actually because I was a steer member for the church, women's mothers church group, I guess,
Okay.
at our church. And so we did that as a Bible study together.
Okay.
And I was back in 2016. It was actually when I was pregnant with Gabe. And then, like, I think he was maybe 4 weeks old when we actually consecrated ourselves. So I need to do
Uh-huh.
it again.
I know.
And I got the St. Joseph books. I think we were
Mhm.
talking about that last time. And I want to do that with my oldest because St. Joseph is his confirmation saint.
Oh, awesome. That's my middle
Yes.
name. Thank
Yes.
you.
And that's my Owen, my 3-year-old is Joseph too.
Oh,
Owen
wonderful.
Joseph. Yes. He was born in 2021. So that was the year of St. Joseph. So
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So that was, yeah, he's a good one. Your parents did good. But yeah, it's just amazing. You know, I look back at pictures from college and I don't know. It's just empty. Like, I feel empty when I see those too. And it's just kind of an emptier smile. And
Now,
it's
I understand
just,
what you're saying because coming from my background and then coming into the church, I actually can look back and say, I do not know the person that I was back then anymore.
no,
And it's a really good change.
it's a good change.
I'm really far from perfect because there's probably people out there listening
Same.
like, really? But I mean, but if you knew me before that,
Mhm.
I mean, it just the things that Christ has done in my life
Yes.
it's absolutely amazing. And it is a beautiful change. I look
Mhm.
back and I'm like, oh my goodness,
Mhm.
the path was destruction.
Yes, and
Um,
that was same here.
this
And you
path is
just,
beauty.
it's
Like, oh
beauty.
wow.
Yes, and just to be raising your family in that. And
Yeah.
you know, I wasn't, like I said, super religious when my husband and I got married, but like I think he sees the changes and he likes the changes, and I see the changes with him just going to mass. And God
Yeah.
willing, he will convert one day. But I know that's between him and God
Yeah.
also. But no, it's a good path and it's a joyful path. And there's
Awesome.
happiness in there too. There's a lot of happiness
Oh, absolutely.
with it, but mostly joy. Yeah.
Well, Annie, thank you so very
Thank
much.
you,
We
Cody.
appreciate your time.
Thank
And thank you
you.
for everything you've done with this station. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day and keep
Yes,
praying
you
for
too.
us.
Oh, no, I will be. And yeah, pray for me
Absolutely.
too. Thank you, Cody.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
You are listening to Divine Mercy Radio's Fall Care-a-thon, Joy of the Gospel. We just had an amazing conversation with Annie Sandmeier. She actually worked here for a little bit, lives in Colorado, and just has a great story. So you can look her up and go to her. Let's get your website here really quickly. HiAnnieJoy.com. Go ahead.
Sorry, or CatholicTravelUSA.com.
Oh, there
It's
we go.
for domestic pilgrimages. And we actually right now, if you at the top banner, if you click on it, you can take a really fast and fun quiz that tells you where your perfect pilgrimage is here in the States.
Oh, sweet. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you. Thanks.
You're listening to Divine Mercy Radio's Fall Care-a-thon, Joy of the Gospel on 101.7 KJDM, Lindsborg and Salina.